They never looked at me when they passed me in the lobby. Not really, I was invisible. Just the woman in the gray uniform with the cleaning cart, head down, gloves on, moving quietly from floor to floor, like a ghost in their marble palace. I cleaned the elevator buttons they poked without thinking. I wiped down the granite countertops in the shared kitchen they used to warm up overpriced coffee. I scrubbed the private gym floors they ran across without ever saying hello. Once I sneezed while mopping the hallway. A man in a suit glanced at me, then muttered, "Can you do that somewhere else?" and kept walking. No bless you, no thank you, just a command. Because when you wear a name tag and carry a mop, you're not a person, you're a fixture. Furniture, background. I worked the morning shift at the Hadley Executive Tower. 22 stories of glass, steel, and arrogance. It was the kind of building where the lowest paid person parked furthest from the entrance. And that was me. I walked in at 5:30 every morning, before the espresso machines turned on, before the first Range Rover rolled into the valet lot. I didn't mind the early hours. It meant silence. No condescension yet. Just me and my thoughts and the rhythmic sound of a vacuum cleaner moving across imported rugs. I wasn't born here. I came to the US 17 years ago with 2 suitcases, a toddler, and the kind of hope that only desperation gives birth to. My husband stayed behind, said he'd follow later. He didn't. I cleaned homes, then offices, then this tower. I didn't complain. I saved. Every week, no matter how little was left after rent, food, and school supplies, I put something away. $10, sometimes 20. On lucky weeks, maybe 50. I kept the money in envelopes hidden under the loose floorboard in my bedroom. I didn't trust banks, not back then. People assumed I was stupid because of my accent, because of the uniform, because I smiled too much and apologized even when it wasn't my fault. But I was always watching, listening, learning. I noticed who got promoted. I saw which companies downsized first. I overheard arguments behind half-closed doors and celebrations in boardrooms. I picked up discarded meeting notes. Sometimes I read them while eating lunch in the janitor closet. Numbers, plans, names. I started Googling things at night. What is ROI? How do venture funds work? Commercial real estate tax incentives. I didn't always understand what I read, but I tried. Then something happened. One morning I overheard a conversation in the hallway outside Suite 1803. 2 men in pressed shirts, talking fast, trying to sound calm. One of them was panicking. Their company was out of town, rent overdue, investors gone, they needed out. Fast. That night I researched their suite, a modest space, not prime, but with windows and decent plumbing. I looked up the leasing company. Then I looked up the owners of the building. That was the night I realized something important. The building wasn't owned by one person. It was owned by a holding group, and they were bleeding tenants. I didn't sleep that night. My heart pounded too loudly. At 3 a.m., I sat at my tiny kitchen table with a calculator and a legal pad and started doing math. Dangerous, delusional math. I figured out that if I could buy just one floor, one section, I could lease it back to struggling companies at a lower rate and still turn a small profit. I had enough saved for maybe 8% of the cost. Insane, right? But I remembered something else. The building was desperate. The owners were hemorrhaging money. I had leverage, just not the kind they were used to. I spent the next 6 months learning. I took a free online course on real estate law. I sat in on open city planning meetings. I emailed people who never responded. I called banks who hung up on me. But eventually I found someone, a private lender who wasn't a saint, just someone who saw numbers and potential. I didn't tell him I cleaned the building. I told him I worked in it. That wasn't a lie, just incomplete truth. I made an offer for the entire 15th floor. It was declined. I countered. They laughed. I persisted. After weeks of back and forth, I got a call while cleaning the 11th floor restroom. My gloves were still wet when I answered. They accepted. Below market value, I signed papers 2 days later in a second-hand blazer and shoes with a worn sole. I became a commercial property owner while still earning $13.75 an hour as a janitor. Nobody knew, not yet. At first, I didn't do anything different. I cleaned, I nodded, I smiled. But now I paid closer attention to who occupied my floor. One of the tenants, a small marketing firm, was struggling. I offered them a rent reduction in exchange for helping me build a logo and a website for my new company. Another, a freelance legal consultant, agreed to draft some basic contracts for reduced rent. My small empire began with favors, not cash. 3 months later, I walked into the building manager's office, a man who had never once made eye contact with me, and asked to see the renewal schedule for other tenants. He blinked like I'd spoken in tongues. I told him I was the new owner of floor 15 and was interested in expanding. He stared, laughed, then checked the records. His face changed. So did his tone. He offered me water, asked if I wanted to sit. Over the next 2 years, I bought 3 more floors. Not all at once, one at a time, each deal harder than the last. But every step made me bolder. I hired a property manager to help, a woman I'd once cleaned with who had a business degree from her home country but couldn't get a job here because her English wasn't perfect. I hired a contractor who used to repair our building's toilets. We built something quietly, carefully. Eventually, the rumor started. Did you hear someone local's been buying up space in the Hadley Tower? No, not a developer. Someone independent. They didn't know it was me, not until the day of the annual building owners meeting. I walked in wearing a navy blue suit and heels that hurt my toes. The room went silent. I introduced myself. Several jaws dropped. A man I used to empty trash for whispered to another, "Is she cleaning staff?" I smiled. "No, I'm your co-owner." Silence. Then slowly respect. The kind that only comes when people realize they can't ignore you anymore. One man didn't say a word the entire meeting. Afterwards, he cornered me near the elevators. "I remember you," he said. "You used to push the cart." "I still do," I replied. "On weekends. It's meditative." He didn't laugh, he just nodded. People like me aren't supposed to own floors. We're not supposed to outbid firms or negotiate with lawyers or understand zoning permits. We're supposed to stay in the background, keep our heads down, know our place. But I stopped accepting my place the day someone told me, "You'll never get ahead in this country unless you're born here." I wasn't born here, but I live here now. I invest here. I pay taxes here. I build here. And one day I plan to own the entire building. Not out of revenge, out of vision. Because there's nothing more satisfying than walking into a space where you were once invisible and knowing you own the light that fills it. So to anyone listening who's ever been called just the janitor or just the maid, let me tell you, there is no such thing as just. There is dignity in every job, but there is also power in dreaming past the role they assigned you. Keep saving, keep learning, keep watching, and when the time comes, buy the damn building.